Ladies and gentlemen, citizens of the universe, this is RosterWatch. My name is Alex Dunlap. I'm joined by Cody Carpentier. And Cody, it's a big day today because we're going to talk about some of these ADPs as we're continuing to kind of monitor how things are going in season-long managed leagues and in the home league streets, the early home league streets. And they're starting to come into focus and how they might differ a little bit from best ball. We're going to talk today about some ADPs that we simply cannot believe. I have a few that I keep looking at that I keep wondering about. I have about 3 or 4 I wanted to talk about, but you say you have a whole grip of them. So let's go ahead and start out with you.
Well, first off, I think the highest ranked guy that I got is McCaffrey, Christian McCaffrey. On some platforms, he's 17, 19. On some, he's 9, 10, 11. I'm getting texts from buddies on this one of like, am I really going to start a draft out at the turn? Like literally with McCaffrey and Henry? Is that what I'm going to do in the year of our Lord 2025? Like it feels weird, gross. I shouldn't do it. Don't do it. I don't want to touch McCaffrey in the second round, let alone seeing ADP at the 9 and 11 spot. If my ADP for McCaffrey was, let's say I get the 302, 306.
It's McCaffrey.
Cool. Well, yeah, it's McCaffrey.
And Deebo Samuel's gone.
Yep. And
they traded away Jordan Mason. And yes, he's healthy. He'll be healthy coming into the season, barring anything else happening. Last year, we should have taken more of the red flag about the whole calf thing and what that all meant. But all the Twitter docs were like, it's fine. There's not a re-injury risk. He's
29 on Saturday, man.
I think that starting out with Christian McCaffrey and Derrick Henry is a nuclear start to a fantasy football draft, Cody.
Well, yes, sure. The names tell me, gosh, if I can get these two guys in the same roster, bonanza. But you're talking about, again, this could be a $25 league. This could be a $5,000 league. Like, it is what it is. The idea sounds great. And I had this conversation. I was listening to you and Matt Kelly do Content Kings this weekend. You guys can go listen to it on the RosterWatch feed as well. And I'm riding in the car with my little brother, and I go, what? I said, the naming of like, oh, I can get Henry and McCaffrey sounds great, but these are 29 and 31-year-old running backs that
care.
Huh?
Don't care.
But I get it. But I said these are 29 and 31-year-old backs. You can't put your season on the back of these two guys. I said, if you're playing, I said this to my little brother, I said, if you're playing portfolio football, if you're playing, you're over on the FFPC, you got 100 teams. Yes, of course. You 100% want to have 5-6 teams that are McCaffrey, Henry, 1,000%. But if I'm just Joe Blow leisurely playing fantasy football and I got one team or 2 teams, I don't want to risk my whole season with that. Like, we know that the same conversation with Derrick Henry can be had, or the same conversation with Mike Evans can be had for Derrick Henry, where it's like, listen, man, this guy's on a career run, right? These guys are once in a decade type guys. It's got to slow down eventually with Derrick Henry. And his body has taken on so much wear since high school. 300 plus, 300 plus, 150, 150, 300, 300, 300, 300, 300, 300 carries, touches. It's like the body wears down. McCaffrey, the body wears down every other year. Like, it sounds good in theory, but at this point, like, to me, I'm like, I don't like this ADP. It's just too much. It's too much for me. If it was 303, have it. I love it. I'll take him. If I can have him, if I can have a Chase, give me a Chase, a Nico, and then a McCaffrey as my start, beautiful. Take it. But if I got to start at the end of 1-2 turn McCaffrey and McCaffrey and Brian Thomas, I'm okay. I'll pass. I want 1-2 turn is just way too ripe.
What if Saquon Barkley fell there? He's getting kind of old.
I don't know if you will, but I think there's a more likelihood he's a top 3 pick than he's a 10, 11, 12.
Well, I'm just asking because it's like you can go back to like 2018 when it was Saquon Barkley as RB1 and Christian McCaffrey as RB2. And you're just like Saquon's had the miles put on him. He's had major injuries himself.
Yep.
But he's going like top 3. And then if you look at McCaffrey, so 2018 he was running back 2 in PPR. In 2019, by over 10 points per game, he was running back 1. In 2020, he only played 3 games, but he was by far RB1 in those 3 games that he was healthy. We know that he came back in 2021 and only played 7 games. And when you start worrying about McCaffrey and, he's too injury prone, right? In that year, he would have been RB5. 2022, Christian McCaffrey is RB2 in PPR. 2023, as we know, Christian McCaffrey is the runaway RB1 in PPR. And then we all know what happened last year, just a year mired by injury where he, only played in 4 games and wasn't even that good in those 4 games because he had the calf. It's like every year that even in years where he's been injured, except for last year, he's been like anything between RB1, RB2, RB5 every single season. And if he's coming into the season healthy, I don't see that big a difference between him and Saquon, who's coming off such a huge, like, it feels like Saquon might be the bigger risk coming off all those touches last season.
And is Saquon one of your guys? Because I don't love the Saquon thing.
No, he's not one of my guys. I think Saquon should probably go in those top 3 picks.
Oh, so you think he should be one of the top 3 picks?
Yeah, I think he probably top 3 to 5 picks. I think he should. Yeah.
I'm generally team fade. We
can always have the discussion about whether you fade him for Bijan Robinson, right? I think that you can have that discussion. I think this year we can have it if we're just worried about all the touches last season. I think you can have that discussion because of that. But I'm just like I view Saquon Barkley and Christian McCaffrey through a similar prism, and you're getting one guy that in some of these he goes second round. He goes 203, 204. I guess I'm a little bit surprised he ends up going like. I'm shocked he kind of goes that late. I think that once the normies come into these drafts, and not the people that are watching fantasy football shows at the beginning of June, you're going to see McCaffrey. I think he's 80. I think he'll probably go like 9th or something.
I simply can't believe that.
One of the ones that I thought was interesting here, or that what's the title of the show? Something like These ADPs are what shock us or something. We simply can't believe it.
Yes.
I simply can't believe this, that I was looking at it earlier, and Justin Fields, I'm not a giant Justin Fields guy, right? I'm just not. I can't believe he's going after Justin Herbert. So if you just look at what? Yeah. Yeah. Like on ESPN, Herbert's going at 104. Justin Fields is going at 133. Right. Justin Herbert has the higher ECR on Fantasy Pros. Now on Underdog, Justin Fields is going ahead of Justin Herbert. But if you take the average of the Draft Wizard ADP on Fantasy Pros and the ECR, along with the ESPN PPR season-long managed league ADP and the Underdog ADP, Justin Herbert has an average ADP right now of 110.25, whereas Justin Fields has 112.25. And I just look at these guys and I'm just like, Herbert's fine. He's a steady Eddie quarterback, but we know that Justin Fields has not played as many games over the last 3 seasons as Justin Herbert, right? Like he plays a smattering of games every year. Okay. Whereas Justin Herbert plays all the games. And Cody, would you believe how I told you that over the course of the last 3 seasons, Justin Fields has at exactly as many 25-plus point fantasy games as Justin Herbert and double the amount, 3 to 6 of 30-point fantasy games?
I believe it.
And Fields is going to play the whole season. They've given him a 2-year deal. He's going to kill you with his legs, and you look at the rushing. Some of these rushing outputs, like some of these games were just explosions. He's put up these games like you have to go back to 2022 to see just the absolute explosion games. But I mean, we're talking 42, 43-point games and stuff like that. Even last year, that game at Indianapolis, a 37.1 pointer, and in that game, he only got you 55 on the ground. He got you the 2 rushing touchdowns, though, 312 through the air. And I look at it and I'm like, man, how can you not take Justin Fields ahead of just a middling quarterback with very little upside in Justin Herbert? I'm flummoxed by that.
I get it. Herbert, I mean, I think people are going to have a tough time wrapping their heads around Fields. Like, you're going to have the people that have been the fans that have been the ones that, spent the money on the MVP tickets 2 years ago in Chicago on Fields. Like, you're going to have those degenerates, and they're going to be like, well, he can rush for 1,100 yards and double-digit touchdowns, and he can do this thing because there's not a lot there. And it's like, well, there's still a pretty good run game there and a good offensive line there, and they got a tight end, and they got weaponry to throw to. It's like, well, there's the throwing aspect of it that matters, where I think you look at the guys that he's sandwiched between in overall ADP, it's Brock Purdy and Caleb Williams. And it's like, yes, if we're being honest with ourselves, the super upside amongst those 3 is Justin Fields.
Yes.
But if I want somebody that I just kind of know what I'm going to get if all things are equal as far as health, I think Purdy's probably your most dependable piece there. But I think people are going to be allured by Caleb Williams, and they're going to say, well, Justin Fields has bad weather just like Caleb does, and Caleb's got Ben Johnson, and Caleb's also got the better weaponry. And he can also run the football. And I think vis-a-vis Herbert, who's also right there just a notch ahead, I would agree with you. He should be ahead of Herbert. Herbert should be behind that group, period.
Yes. All right.
But I think people are going to have a hard time in the draft room when they get to 108, and it's like, should I take Purdy? Should I take Caleb? Should I take Fields? Which one of these quarterbacks should I take? And I think Fields will have his fans, but I think more times than not, people will go Purdy or Williams.
All right. Who is your next one?
I'm going to lump a group of receivers here together because this is a whole like, I guess, tier technically in the second round / third round. And I just kind of want to get your thoughts here. I don't know how we're going to run through these names, but to me, a group of them are, I think, considerably too high. I can't believe how high they're going right now. And there's 2 that I think are quite a bit low when you take into context here. So I'm going to start first off with Ladd McConkey, who's 21st overall, 23rd on the draft research, 17 on ECR, down at 34 on ESPN, but it still comes through as an average ADP of 21. T. Higgins is 25th, Tyreek Hill 26th, Devontae Adams 33, Mike Evans 34, and Rashee Rice 40. So between 21 and 40, Ladd is 21, T. Higgins 25, Hill 26, Adams 33, Evans 34, Rice 40. I'm taking Rashee Rice personally ahead of all of them. Is that bad?
Ahead of Ladd and who else?
Ladd's at 21. T. Higgins is at 25. So just the start of the third round. Hill's right behind him. Tyreek Hill. Devontae Adams is at 33, playing with Puka Nacua. Mike Evans, we talked about this the other day. It's the 11th consecutive season with 1,000 yards. Playing with Godwin, playing with Ibuka, playing with Bucky and Rashad White. New offensive coordinator for third consecutive year. Hamstring injuries, 34th overall. And Rashee Rice is 40. The back end of this group of 6. Lad McConkey in an offense that you just talked about with Justin Herbert, where it's they got Quentin Johnston, who we don't like. They got Mike Williams. They
drafted
draft Trey Harris. They bring in 2 running backs, Najee and Amari and Hampton. We know they're not going to throw the football a lot. Lad was good. Lad was very good. He's a very good receiver. But for fantasy football purposes, for me, 15 fantasy points per game this last year. Yeah, he had a couple of booms, a couple of 29-point games. Week 17 and week 8. Everything else was 14, 11, 9, 7, 17, 9, 6, 7.
Yeah,
21st overall for Lad McConkey.
What people are most excited about with Lad was just the target upsurge starting in week, I think 10. From week 10 on is whenever you didn't have any single, you didn't have one. I'll pull up the game log, but from week 10 on, there was not one can't miss game in PPR. Like not one game where you put him in your lineup and he's yeah. So starting in week 10 at tennis, no, I'm sorry, week 11 versus Cincy. So week 11 through the wild card game, 18.3, 14.3, 20.7, 16.8, 14.7, 29.4, 14.5, 34.7. And that just had to do but then, before that, you had basically 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the games of the 60% of the first games. He was a bust for you. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So you think if they bring in target competition with Trey Harris, I get it. Look, as far as the
Trey Harris, Keandre Lambert-Smith, Mike Williams.
Right. As far as the and the threat that they could just run more.
They brought Najee and Amari and Hampton, 2 guys that can both take on 200 plus.
So I mean, in a vacuum, I think I'm going to I'm going to take Rashee Rice over Lad, which means I'm going to be taking him over the other guys you mentioned. Right. I'm even looking at the best ball cheat sheet right now. The only one that I have over of the guys that you mentioned, Rashee Rice, is Lad McConkey, and that's just because it doesn't break 8. I don't want to break ADP too bad on it, but Lad is down a little bit from where he would normally be, and if we was just going straight by ADP, and Rashee Rice is way up. I feel like there's enough Rashee Rice support out there, enough of a hive to where through the summer we're going to see that thing move.
Mike Evans and Devontae Adams and Tyreek Hill. I think I get the Higgins thing. Higgins is still.
I think I take Hill. I think that I have. So I have it basically Tyreek Hill, Lad McConkey, Rashee Rice, and then the Higgins, McLaurin, Devontae Adams right after them.
So you don't think that the Tyreek Hill ADP is bad at 26?
Well, let me look and see how that 26 comes to fruition, because I'm still trying to get my mind completely out of best ball and more into redraft. So on Underdog, he's 27, ESPN, he's 31, 23 in the Fantasy Pros ECR, and then 31 on the Draft Wizard. Yes. I've said it and said it. I'm taking 3rd round Tyreek Hill. He had like a fractured wrist last season, and he's not one of these Mike Evans that as he gets older, it's like he still has his elite speed. He still has his super weapon, right? How long can I worry about Mike Evans because he's a power forward. It's I talked about it with Matt, but it's like, you see like with DeAndre Hopkins, it's all falling off. These guys that can't separate in these dynamic ways like Tyreek Hill, it's just, I think the fall off comes harder. So no, I'd like Tyreek ahead of those guys, and I'm just going to take the swing on it.
So you take Tyreek ahead of that whole field?
Yes, I'm taking the guy that we were taking at 102, 103 last year over that whole field.
Okay, and then after that, so among this group, so I think that Lad is too high. I think Lad should be below a couple of these guys. I kind of agree with you on Hill. Higgins, it's tough to move him, but I think he's still a touch high. Adams and Evans, I think, are around high.
I like Devontae Adams. I've loved Stafford.
You like Devontae Adams at 3rd round ADP.
Yeah, I think Devontae Adams right now personally. Let's see. I'll tell you exactly kind of where I have him. Yes, I like him in 3rd round ADP. I do. I like it. I mean, I want to take, but I also have like Bucky Irving as 3rd round ADP, even though he's going to go higher than that. But yeah, I want to take Devontae Adams around the same, I want to take Devontae Adams around the same time that like Breece Hall and stuff is going right now.
Adams is a year older than Mike Evans and has 10 consecutive seasons over 800 yards.
But the thing about Devontae Adams is last year Devontae Adams, like, say what you will about him, but down the stretch he looked like he had juice, dude, and he was playing fast. You watched him, you're like, dude, this guy's awesome.
He's also playing with Rodgers, but I mean, Rodgers has said Stafford's his favorite quarterback, and Stafford does have probably the closest comparable player right now in football.
All Stafford does is bring the best out of his fantasy wide receivers.
Exactly, that's a good point. And I just really have a hard time visualizing what that offense looks like. I guess the answer is how they feed Adams and Puka is the fact that wide receiver 3 is still Tutu Atwell, and Tutu Atwell probably just doesn't really matter in our conversations. In reality of football, he's going to still get his 55 to 65 targets. And the tight end room will be interesting. But man, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing
I can't believe it. To me, it's like it feels like a dream to start out a draft. Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Tyreek Hill. And to you, that's
I don't think you're going to get Tyreek Hill in that start though. He's going to go on the other end.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, you could start the draft out with McCaffrey,
Henry's Adams,
and Rice.
Oh, yeah, dude.
That's sick.
Just ship the check. I mean, come on, dude. Just ship it, dude.
Rashi Rice is probably 2 rounds low.
Yes. Where's he going? 44. Like he should be like he's going in the 4th round now.
49 on Draft Wizard, 46 on ESPN.
Okay, so 4th, 5th turn. Yeah, dude, he should be going at around the same time as all the guys that we just mentioned. He should be going around the same time as Ladd.
Okay.
Another wide. What?
You got anybody later in the draft?
Yeah, I got a couple. I got okay. One more, and that is, that's Christian Kirk. So his ADP right now, if you look at it, it is so here's what's going on. And Underdog, his ADP is 123, right? On the draft, but if you look at ESPN and the Draft Wizard, like real people drafting, he's basically not being drafted on ESPN right now. Maybe like a last round pick. He's not going in the top 200. And on Draft Wizard, he's going at 140, 145. So basically 25 spots after he's going on Underdog. And that takes into account that on the Draft Wizard, there's people by that point are taking like defenses and kickers and stuff like that, right? So there's extra stuff added in that you don't even have on Underdog. So it's actually more like a kind of like a 4-round difference as far, if you take that into consideration. And I just think to myself, this is a guy that the Texans went out, got early in free agency. I know that that Jaden Higgins, Jalen Noel both come in. Jalen Noel, he looks like he's going to play slot, I guess, but he's going to be the second team slot there to start. It's going to be Christian Kirk, and Jaden Higgins has a little bit of a redundant skill set to Nico Collins. If you look at what's happened with the offensive line, last year that CJ Stroud faced pressure on his dropbacks more than any other quarterback in all of football, right? As far as he had of his 703 dropbacks, he was pressured on 274 of them. That led the whole NFL. 39% of his dropbacks, he was pressured, and the offensive line just got worse this season. So you just think about that. You think about where Christian Kirk operates. You think about, you think about him being an outlet whenever the pressure comes. He's always been super dependable. He's going to get to play out of the slot the whole time, the way that we always envisioned, and we always wanted to make sure that he was playing in Jacksonville. Starting wide receiver, starting slot guy on what is ostensibly, we think, hopefully going to be a good offense. We're not sure it's going to be, a great offense, but we think that he's good. And then I just got over on fantasypoints.com. I was just looking through this. And one thing that I did not realize about CJ Stroud is he's basically in the whole league besides Josh Allen. He is the like out of 75, he's number 72. So only Russell Wilson, Josh Allen, and Sam Howell throw to their first read less often. So what we know about CJ Stroud is that he's somebody who's going to go through his progressions. Even last year, whenever he was under more pressure than anybody else in the league, he would go through his progressions. He would get to his second read more often than 72 other qualifying quarterbacks, which to me means if he's having to go through them fast, he's going from Nico to Kirk, and he's having to throw it right then. So I think things. I don't understand how you can get Kirk at this so very late. He could be PPR. He could be a cinch wide receiver.
Killer, yeah. What was that stat?
The one about the advanced passing stat, just the first read percentage.
First read percentage.
Yeah. So he threw to his first read only 59.8% of the time. That was 72nd out of 75 total qualifiers.
Wow.
And do you know what's funny? All the guys with the highest first read percentages are bad. The only kind of good one with a high first read percentage up here at 76.1 is Trevor Lawrence. But other than that, it's like of guys who actually, you have, of course, some of these guys that didn't play really at all. But of guys who actually played, Trevor Lawrence, Anthony Richardson, Will Levis, all above 70%. Mac Jones, Daniel Jones, Jameis over 70, Deshaun Watson over 70. I mean, just bad players. So
I just got done. I'm not going to sidetrack it, but you brought up Trevor Lawrence. I'm going to bring it up. I just got done watching Cade Klubnik for 2026. I watched a game against South Carolina. I think he was north of 90% first read. It was horrible. There was some stuff that was, we'll talk. I'm working on a column for that for RosterWatch, but that was tough to watch. And I love Cade Klubnik from Clemson, but I thought that's a great stat. I guess I haven't looked at first read progression percentages from an NFL perspective, but Stroud, we know he's advanced.
We talked about it on the SiriusXM show last year, or on the podcast about for the wide receiver side.
Yeah,
like the first read percentage for those guys. That's a really good stat that they have over there. I just recently realized that they had it for quarterbacks.
Yeah, I didn't know they had it for quarterbacks. So that's obviously a fantastic stat, especially when you look at. It's just like the run stuff we talked about on the show yesterday. All right, so that was Christian Kirk. I'm gonna stick at receiver. I got two here in the top 100. Tedero McMillan at 60. Tedero McMillan in Carolina is. I sort of want to pose the question to you. If one views Tedero McMillan as the true alpha in an offense that should take a step forward, and under Dave Canales, Bryce Young should be a year better, top 5 offensive line in payment or in contracts. Xavier Legette's there. He's clearly not the one. They still want him to be a one. I have wonder and question top 10 draft pick. A year ago, Malik Neighbors was 4th, worked his way up to the 3rd.
3rd by the end.
Yeah.
And we got him in every draft.
28.
Yeah.
I think it was like 28th overall, 27th, 28th overall. And I look at this Tedero McMillan situation, and Marv was going ahead of Malik, right? Marv was like 23, 24.
If
I remember right. 2-3 turn. And I look at this Tedero McMillan thing and I go, well, it has to be one of those two situations. That's how I view it. And you could say, Well, in New York, there was nobody else to throw the football to. Agreed. But who else is there to throw the football to in Carolina? Jalen Coker? Sure, we like Jalen Coker. But if you look at Jalen Coker on this list as well, I think Coker's down at 186. People aren't respecting him. You look at Xavier Legette, who, if he can stay healthy, could be fun, could be cool. 157. There's no respect there. You look at Adam Thielen, a guy that's been in this team for a couple of years, aging, the Christian Kirk, the Tyler Lockett area, 153. There's no respect there. Tedro McMillan's the option. He's the receiving option. He's the target hog that we've talked about. You look at and that's like the Malik Neighbors thing. He should be the target hog, just like Malik Neighbors was. Look at Marv Harrison Jr., who had question marks around him. Yes, we had Neighbors number 1, whatever, Marv 2, things like this. But we still knew Marv was going to play, and people still drafted him in the top 24 because the talent was there. And if people loved Marv, they should like Tedro McMillan. I just feel like this Tedro McMillan thing, I can't believe it's not 40 instead of 60. It's not 30 instead of 60. People aren't running out there to defend.
Because he's not as good as Neighbors and Marv as a prospect.
100%. But the situation is similar to both. He's the clear number 1. Targets are there. 1,000-yard seasons the last 2 years. Top 10 draft pick. Everything's in line for us to believe. And you can even look at his underdog number. His underdog number is 39. That's where it ended up. But his Draft Wizard, ECR, ESPN stuff is 68 to 78. Right? And I would argue with you that his ADP should be higher on seasonal managed stuff than it should be in best ball. I don't think he's really a best ball. To me, he's not a best ball receiver. I don't want to have him in best ball. I want to have him in a roster where I can control my, set my lineups and stuff like this. So it surprised me to see Tedro McMillan, and I can't really believe that he's at 60 rather than why he isn't in the conversation around, like the group we talked about earlier, the T. Higginses of the world, the Rashee Rices of the world. Why he isn't in that group caught me off guard, and I can't believe that people haven't pressed him up even higher.
This is Anthony Richardson, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is AJ Brown, and you're listening to RosterWatch.
This is Josh Allen, and you're listening to RosterWatch.